And here we are again with 4 tables of 100. So if I remember from the last video, some of the issues I had with Kannibal's play is that he just seemed to play a little bit too suspicious in terms of he was just calling way too much in spots where calls didn't need to be made. Just quickly here on table 2, we raise in middle position, are called in the cutoff. I think this bet is fine. Players will call really wide. The only thing I'll say here is it's very important that when you do decide to bet pocket pairs in these sort of situations, you again want to be very, very clear on what you're going to do on turn and river. If your opponent is quite aggressive, then checking to bluff, catch, turn and river is fine. Quite often I'll bet flop then check in order to allow them to try float the turn, because no one can really hit this sort of board. Though checking flop itself is not a disaster either. The decision to not c-bet here, I think I'm just going to stab and give up. I think our opponent will fold enough for our bet to be profitable. If we bet, say, $1.50, we'll just quickly do the maths. Our opponent only has to fold under 40% of the time in order to be profitable, and I think a lot of people will see this board and give up, and not to mention that on certain turns we can also double barrel, so I quite like a stab here unless we've got a reason to think our opponent's a massive calling station. Another reason I may also bet is if I'm sure if I check my opponent will bet. There's no real need to give him the pot. Sorry, my mistake. I didn't realise there was a third person in the hand, so it's probably not as fantastic that way. We have our old friend All In Benny on table 1. Hopefully we get to see what All In Benny had there. The hand on table 3 here is pretty close. Sort of things I'm thinking about here is a type of opponent. I think Kannibal's in a 3-bet in, which I think is probably the best decision here. We've got position. We don't really want to call and see a flop. Folding against some opponents I think is fine, but I like the 3-bet. Yep. The other thing I want to point out here is that I really like the sizing as well. We don't need to squeeze a super large amount, so the smallest we can get away with for fold equity is fine.